All right, you guys, the one day of the year where people are going to be talking about Anti-Cuddle Sarah. So, Anti-Cuddle Sarah is one of those heroes in the game that I almost didn't even want to cover. But I got convinced by people on my stream that, people are going to be curious how she's used, what she's good for, and, what they should be doing with her. So, Anti-Cuddle Sarah, I mentioned I didn't want to make a video on her because her perk isn't insanely good, okay? Maybe people would disagree with this, but she does regenerate a ton of energy as your commander, and then a decent amount of energy in support. Now, I say she's not insanely good simply because that role is filled by a lot of other heroes. So she grants eliminations, energy on eliminations, which is really good for a melee build with a Steam Thrasher. As you can see, with the Steam Thrasher and her just in support, that is plenty of energy recovery, and it's just a very, very good passive thing to have. If you have her in the lead, you can effectively do an entire encampment with almost never letting up on that right click, and it's a pretty great energy recovery. Now, ironically, I would say that she's not that good because she's too good. Like, she gives you way more energy than you need, and the only time that she's ever seriously useful as a commander is if you're doing a loadout like this with a Steam Thrasher, or you're spamming the surround pound, or other stuff like that. And not to take away from her fame and glory, but I mentioned that she fills an area of the game that's kind of oversaturated by other heroes, such as Dino Southie. Now, I know that not everybody has the Fossil Southie hero, but if you do have him constantly regenerating 12 energy per second regardless of what you're doing, is debatably better than 22.5 energy on a kill. Now, if you don't have Dino Southie and you run ninja loadouts regularly, she's great in the support. I mean, just kind of good for passive energy regeneration. I use the Storm King's Ravager a lot. I'm sure many of you do. It's the mythic sword. It's arguably the best melee weapon in the game, and I think that there's a pretty strong argument for that. Swords kind of dominate the melee meta right now, and having that 7.5 energy on the eliminations is really good for when you're using the heavy attack on the sword, which it's passive. It's really not that amazing. Again, if you have Fossil Southie and you're using Blast from the Past, which you usually are, especially in a Luna build, then you don't really need her, but she's great to have as extra. What I'm more focused on is what I was recording, actually, lastly in my gameplay here, is the Totally Rockin' Out build. Now, this is an example where you're using her as a commander, and Totally Rockin' Out doesn't have any energy recovery in the support of your team. You're just using Anti-Cuddle Sarah as all of your energy regeneration. So that's kind of where she could be more useful, although even as I say that in the loadout, I also use our third hero I'm going to talk about, is Fallen Love Ranger Jonesy, who is also in the thumbnail, and many of you might have been wondering why he's there, because he is effectively, her other side. I mean, you got a male and female version of, like, the opposite of the, lovey Valentine's heroes, and he does almost the same exact kind of thing. He generates energy over time, and as it stands, he's been bugged since release, and frankly I hope they don't fix it, but he actually provides 6 energy every second for 3 seconds, which is literally exactly what his commander perk does, and that's very powerful. And I threw him in the support of my Totally Rockin' Out build because I kind of just wanted to focus on energy today, and that's kind of where I'm going to draw the conclusion that Fallen Love Ranger Jonesy is a great option just to have in the support. I think he's better overall because any elimination restores energy. Last time I tested this does work with traps as well. This might change in the future, but in a lot of my Happy Holidays loadouts, I use Fallen Love Ranger Jonesy just because, he just gives you passive energy recovery, and a lot of those obviously Happy Holiday loadouts aren't using Blast from the Past, so Fossil Southie's not an option, so it's kind of a great substitute. And she's not very much use because you're not really using melee weapons in those builds. So if you're using a melee loadout, then this is kind of what it's going to look like. I have 3 of them to show you. This is like my bog standard basic loadout. I'll link my best ninja loadout in the description below. I'll also link all of my best ninjas, where I covered Anti-Cuddle Sarah long ago, and many other options for great ninja options. This is bog standard because Paleo Luna just gives you a massive buff with Blast from the Past, Sorian Focus for energy, as we've talked about a lot today, Hide. Coconuts just keeps you alive in the action, buffs your damage, anatomy lessons, and fumble. Fumble can kind of be anything. There's a lot of substitutes here, such as Anti-Cuddle Sarah, where you could just put her in to just recover more energy if need be. As I said, Southie is probably going to cover that niche perfectly fine, but if you wanted to use her in the lead for absolute maximum energy recovery, I don't know if this is it. Frankly, 12 energy every second might be better than, 22.5 on a kill, as I mentioned earlier, but if you want to just get absolutely overkill energy recharge, I don't think that there was really a moment where I wasn't at 100 using this build, unless I was just spamming the scythe into thin air, killing nothing. This is ridiculous. This is almost just an example of an extreme. There's really not too much more you could do with this, but it's worth showing you guys if you want to just have as much energy recovery as possible with a melee build. And then, of course, this is what I was talking about earlier with my Totally Rockin' Out build, where you just kind of get really good passive and immediate energy recovery upon kills. And then, of course, you do get pretty much all of your damage from Totally Rockin' Out. I mentioned in the stream while I was recording this even that, like, I would never, ever use this build conventionally. I'm simply using this as an example because, as I mentioned, like, I am killing stuff very good here, although I do have a pretty stacked team, even though this is a 144 player. Most of my damage is coming from Totally Rockin' Out. It buffs my crits, and I think it buffs my damage as well. I don't even remember how Totally Rockin' Out works, but my point is, all my damage is coming from Totally Rockin' Out, which is 8 seconds fading over time, so it's almost never, like, constantly active. It was suggested a lot, actually, to use Breakbeat Wildcat, which is kind of a great option if you want to just have Rock and Riff active all the time and throw Anti-Cuddle into support. Again, we're getting into some really weird territory here. This is one of the highest DPS boosting team perks in the game, buffed with a melee chick that gives you energy. This is a video showing you the different ways that Anti-Cuddle Sarah can be used. Whether or not she is good, so to speak, is going to be left up to you guys. And lastly, of course, it wouldn't be complete if I didn't show you exactly what weapons I've been using in today's video. I didn't use a Storm King's Fury at all. You can basically mentally substitute all of my Storm King's Ravager footage with the Fury, except that it would have meteorites and, you know, falling from the sky. So I didn't use the Fury, but the Storm King's Ravager is obviously used plenty. These are the perks on that. The Ear Splitter isn't something I'd seriously recommend. I don't love it. I know a lot of people like this weapon, but you're stuck in one place. It takes a long time to set up that heavy attack. You can't really move because you're getting, you know, you'll be getting attacked, and you're really only limited to hitting what's around you. So this is a build where I don't have any heavy attack efficiency on here, although I don't really think that it's necessary because you're obviously recovering so much energy, it's absurd. The Husk Warper is fun, but again, not insanely good compared to like the Surround Pound, which was clearing enemies even when they were fire, which is a 25% damage total. Say like if you're hitting for 100 damage with a nature Surround Pound, I'll be hitting a fire enemy for 25. So even with that reduction, it's actually just slaying everything. And of course, I'm regenerating all of my energy back almost immediately, which is really nice. And then huge thanks to Skulls, play with him all the time. He gave me his Steam Thrasher, which is perked perfectly, crit rating, crit damage, and then just heavy attack efficiency. Like, this was a very, very, very powerful tool. And I think definitely the best way to turn into a lawnmower, because I think every kid at some point in their life, like, I mean, adulthood is really just aspiring to be a lawnmower. There's really nothing else that we kind of shoot for. I mean, getting a job, working hard, living on our own is really all amounting to being a lawnmower and cutting through hordes of zombies, because if that's not what we're doing this for, then what are we doing this for? If there's no scuba, then what has this all been about? So that's it for the video, you guys. I don't really have too much to say on Anti-Cuddle Sarah. She is, as I said right off the bat, a very nice tool to have in the shed. Definitely not something I'd recommend in the lead unless you're doing something energy efficient, because that's literally exactly what she's useful for. As for a conventional ninja build, as long as you have Southie, he's kind of what you should be prioritizing, but Anti-Cuddle can be a great substitute / additive bonus to just get more energy passively. So definitely a good hero to have. If you don't have her, I highly recommend grabbing her. If you don't have any other kind of energy recovery, or you just want to add her to your collection, put her in the book, you can totally do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit subscribe if you're new, like the video if you enjoyed it, comment what you guys thought below. Hope you guys have a nice day, and thanks for watching.